And we are finally back. We do apologize for the 2 or so months that we just had to take off, our little hiatus, vacation, whatever you want to call it. But, life happens, but we're back and we got a bunch of amazing guests lined up and we have a few announcements. And speaking of amazing guests, we're starting it off with a great guest, comedian Jared Freid. You may know him from appearing on SiriusXM, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, podcasts like History Hyenas, Girls Gotta Eat, The Burt Cast. He has a TED Talk. I mean, the kid is everywhere. And if you follow him on social media, then you know he is the board lord. And we get into that as well as dating advice and a bunch of other wild stuff. And Jared is going to be at the Wilbur Theater next month, November 12th. There is 2 shows for that one. The first show is sold out. Can't get into that one. A second show was added, and tickets are still available for that second show at the Wilbur Theater on November 12th. Go check it out at jaredfreid.com and grab your tickets before that second show is also sold out. All right, without further ado, let's get to comedian Jared Freid.
If it was illegal to say stupid things into a microphone,
why must you be so stupid?
these guys would be doing life without parole.
Hey, everybody, we're back from prison.
Why do we keep encouraging this kind of behavior? It's the Breaking the Ice podcast with Josh Dolan,
You know, we could, go to jail for this.
along with Mike Shue and Isaiah Moskahana Mana Blitz Boskowitz, whatever the hell his name is.
Is Isaiah joining us?
He's not. He was going to, but right now he is dealing with a kidney stone.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He called me yesterday and he was like, dude, I'm on morphine.
Oh,
I'm basically
that
giving birth."
sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
I've thankfully never had to deal with that. In Richmond, I worked at an alternative station doing mornings, and the country station next door, the host name was Catfish. Super nice, redneck guy. And he had one morning. I walked into the bathroom and he was howling like a horny cat.
Oh God, he was in
And I was like,
labor.
"What's the matter, man?" He goes, "I had this goddamn kidney stone, and oh God!" I was like, "Jesus Christ! All right, I'll just leave you to it." Holy fuck, sucks getting old, man.
How's everything been going, man?
It's been going good, I mean, just working. Went to see Iron Maiden last night, so I'm working on maybe 2 hours of sleep. My ears are still ringing. Bruce Dickinson's still in my ear, going, "Scream for me, Worcester!" Awesome show, massive show.
Now,
Huge.
did you drink tons of Iron Maiden beer?
I did not.
No.
I did not. No, I took it easy because I knew I had to get up early. I've learned my lesson. So,
Oh, have you?
I had 1 beer last night. Yeah.
That's how do you I don't know how to do that.
It's called maturity.
Oh. Or I think it's called being not an alcoholic.
Right. Yeah, that might be it too. Yeah. I've learned. It took me a long time to learn though.
I'm still learning. I'm
Right.
starting to get worried about myself. And when me and my wife go to a restaurant, if somebody gets up and they haven't finished their beer, it annoys me and I can't stop thinking about it.
Do you go and finish it? Because that's the sign of a real alcoholic, when you're finishing drinks that people put down at the bar when they leave.
No, I've never actually done that, but I mean I've stared at it, and then even when they come and clear it away, I'm like, I know it still had beer in it, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm like, what kind of serial killer was Jeffrey Dahmer just eating next to us? Well, Jeffrey Dahmer would finish the beer, but
yeah, he would finish the beer in 5 seconds. That guy could pound a Budweiser, huh?
Did you watch that show?
Oh yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Creepy. I couldn't binge it though. I was so exhausted at the end of every episode. Because it was just so disturbing.
And he talks so soothing, it kind of puts you to sleep,
Yeah, he's got that weird, northern Midwest kind of thing, kind of hypnotic. Yeah.
He really does sound like a nice guy.
Yeah, I definitely go home with him.
Me too. You want to take pictures? Sure.
Yeah, okay. Artful pictures, nothing weird. You got it.
So what's that drum in your room?
Right.
Hello.
There he is.
What's up, man?
How are you? What's going on?
We're
What's
just
up,
talking
Jared?
about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Do you have time to
Something
watch
bad.
television? Did you watch any of that series at all?
I haven't. I can't. It's tough for me to get into. Like some of these shows feel like they're being presented to me like they're books, like that I have to read. Like I don't like they're as daunting as a book would be.
Right.
Like they're like, oh, you got to get into the Jeffrey Dahmer kills everyone and eats people. And by episode 17, you're going to be into it. But until then, it's a little slow and, it's going to take you, 7 days to watch. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of this. I want to watch dumb stuff. I don't want to be, I don't want the thoughtful, like trip down anxiety lane that presents to me.
And the character building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just to let you
give
know.
me stupid, dumb TV. I'm sick of this. You gotta watch it. I don't know. And then they all become this mountain to climb. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. I don't know. It doesn't seem enjoyable to me, but I'm sure it's a wonderful show.
Well, in the first 5 minutes, he drills a hole into somebody's head, pounds a Budweiser in 5 seconds, brings home a guy and handcuffs him, and then gets arrested by the police. So, it starts strong.
It starts strong. Yeah. For some, I guess if that's what you're looking for on your Monday night when you're trying to come down and relax after work.
Character building's very quick.
Right. I guess. Yeah, he chops off someone's arm, gnaws on it, arrested, yells at the camera that you should talk to your mom more. Like that seems like blood pumping that I don't need at that hour. Like I'm trying to relax. I'm trying to go to I like the Star Wars and Marvel stuff. I've gotten into that. I never read the comics, never watched Star Wars growing up. And now that stuff, at least what I like about it, and I guess it's maybe from the pandemic, it's like I get to leave this world and go somewhere else. It's probably why nerds liked it so much. They hated high school, they hated middle school. They're like, let me take my brain to this other world where I don't have to be thrown into a locker. And I have that here where I like to go to Andor and watch, Rogue One and go to another planet where I don't have to listen to someone go, you got the vaccine, look at the wearing a mask, to talk about that stuff. So let me get away from this shit.
Right, exactly. That's what entertainment should be.
Right.
But some people's entertainment is just making reality harder to deal with. Some people find entertainment in that.
That's because the work at home thing. We work from home. We deal with very little stimuli. We deal with very little variables, most people. And they go, give me all of that from the safety of my couch. I leave the house every night. I go do shows every night. I'm on stage every night. Every night there's a new drunk person who's trying to pay their tab while I'm trying to talk about my relationship. And, I have to deal with that variable. So I have that in spades,
I got to say, though, Andor started kind of slow, man. It's exactly what you described for me. And I love the same stuff. All the stuff you mentioned, I love that stuff. I'm a comic book nerd. I love science fiction. It seemed like leading up to this last episode, which was amazing. The whole battle scene and everything. It started to get kind of slow for me.
I guess what I've read, and I agree with you, they do this 3-episode arc. I read that this guy's whole strategy is build, third episode is always going to be the big action one. So it is funny that this audience, because I'm such a new person to that whole world, the Star Wars, Marvel world. So now it shows up in my TikTok feed of these people that talk about it, and they're so mad by anything surprising them. And so again, it's the opposite of the person who wants these people just want, give me Darth Vader, give me lightsaber, good guy beating bad guy. And so it is funny that they're I'm sure Marvel or Disney is trickling out, don't worry, you're going to get your action. In the 3rd episode every time, don't worry, little guy, and everyone's just such a fucking baby,
Have you watched She-Hulk Attorney at Law at all?
Loved it.
Oh, I know. And it's just what you talked about. They make fun of not only themselves, but of the audience.
Right. And I think from what, and then again, like I go back and read people's opinions on it who are like I like reading the comic book nerd opinion, you know, and I say that lovingly and glowingly, but they go, yeah, this is kind of what this comic book always was. Like it was always self-referential. It was always like poking fun at the universe, at the Marvel universe. And it's like, awesome, do it. I don't care what it is. Just keep me in this world where superheroes are here and no one is saying, look, they wore a mask. They must be, you know, this type of person. Like I'm so sick of that conversation.
Yeah.
Those conversations are hilarious because it reminds me of Boston sports talk radio.
Right. You're
The
totally
same
right.
exact thing. It's just replaced with a different topic.
Same vibe. It's the same energy. It's the same, like, you know, it's Butch from the Cape calling in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same arguments as the comic book nerds, right?
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's either like, well, She-Hulk didn't wear those kind of shoes and she got her powers from gamma ray radiation, or it's like, you know, I can't believe they're going to do replay in baseball,
Right.
and I can't believe he changed his stance, you know, or
changed
whatever.
the thing that I always thought was one way, but it wasn't even that way at all. You know, like,
right.
You know, like we're making childhood shows for adults too. That's the problem too. Like people want the same wonderment and amusement they had when they watch. Like Star Wars is for 11-year-olds. It's for a 12-year-old kid. Like, and so everyone's like, well, I need it for me, but now I'm 40. And
Right.
you're like, you go, I don't know how I can help you, man. Like we'll give you, like, I don't know, we can give you a lightsaber, fucking, pocket pussy, and do it that way.
Idea.
I don't know.
That's actually a really good idea. That's probably been done.
I am sure that exists. There's no
that's got to be. It's got to be out there because
I'll check Spencer's right now.
Yeah, I don't want to Google that. You Google it. I want your ads fucked up, not mine.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. You're going to be at the Wilbur on November 12th, and I just watched your TED Talk today.
Oh, thank you.
And first of all, I don't think I've talked to anybody who's done a TED Talk. And when I saw that you had done a TED Talk, I'm
basically a doctorate now. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you're officially an expert.
Yeah,
I thought it was a joke.
Put on your graduation gowns. TED Talker's here.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like some elaborate, like, wow, those graphics look really real. Like this looks like a real TED Talk, you know? And there's two questions I have about that. One is everybody who does the TED Talk, do they have to wear the Britney Spears microphone? They don't let you hold a microphone?
I would have been the first one to want a microphone, but they tell you got to wear the headset.
Really?
It's and there's an element of that makes it freeing, and that's why I think also if they gave you the option, then it would have a different sound and different cadence. Yeah. Like I think that like affects your cadence because you start talking with both of your hands and you start using the hands to enunciate certain words. So I think it keeps it uniformed a little bit, to be honest. But I never really, I was entering their world. I got invited. So there's a main TED Talk place. I'm again, this is like Marvel, Disney type of stuff. Like I'm new to this world. Like my manager, as douchey as that sounds, he's a huge TED Talk fan. And so there's TED and then there's TEDx. TEDx is an independently run version of TED. So I think I don't know how closely related they are except for the name. Like, I think they kind of feed into maybe you could get into TED or you could use one of your TEDx's. So I did a TEDx in Reno and they're an independently run thing. So they have performer spots at the end of each segment. And I was invited as a performer. And I think the reason they do that is it's an all-day event. It's 30 people giving talks that are 10 to 15 minutes each. You buy one ticket to come and it's a long day. There's a lunch break. And the people that are there are like very, you can tell that they're the type, you make assumptions about people in mass. You make assumptions about people who like TED Talks. They look exactly how you think they would look. And, in this specific one was Reno, and Reno, Nevada is like, it is
Hooker Central.
I mean, that's what they tell you, that it's the time that it's the land that time forgot. It's like Nevada's answer to Atlantic City. That's
Right.
just it's stuck in a certain time, but like
Nick
there's
Swartzen is rollerblading around.
Yeah, right. Everyone's just everyone, the whole thing. So I was slotted as a performer because I think they want to keep up the energy. So one was a musician in the first segment. The second segment was a fellow comedian, Liz Mealy, who's hilarious. And then I was the end of the third segment. And as a performer, you're allowed to do whatever you want, because the idea is they're basically saying to you, we're not going to pay, we'll pay your travel, we'll pay your accommodations, but we won't pay you. You're getting paid in our YouTube traffic, and you get to have this video.
So it's like stand-up comedy for a lot of years.
Well, that's how they draw on a stand-up comedian, because now you're going to get not just a video, but a good video. You're going to get like a clean clip, and it looks great, and you're on this big stage, and it's a big audience. So a lot of comics do it and just do stand-up. I didn't know that was an option. I didn't really think of it that way. I was like, I'm going to do a TED Talk, because I have a dating and relationships podcast. I talk about dating and relationships. I've been talking about it for about more than a decade. I've been taking emails from people going through all levels of the dating world and dealing with technology and dating and how those intersect, and how you can't really go to your parents for advice because they didn't meet on Hinge and then like each other's Instagram pictures. And what does that mean? You can't go to your parents for that advice. So I've been talking about this for a long time. And I was like, I think the conversation gets taken over by the extremes, as do most things that we just talked about. And so I've always had a level-headed, or I think a reasonable conversation about dating has always happened on my podcast. And that doesn't get you very popular very quickly, but it's built a nice audience and it's doing well now. So I went in with the idea of, I will talk about the thing in dating I see the most. And it's that women look for direct answers, want an on-off switch to their answers, and they very little times are they trusting their feelings. And that's what the whole TED Talk was about.
So they thought, so they thought you were going to go up and just do stand-up. But then did you surprise them and say, "Hi, I'm a dating expert"? And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. It's too late. You couldn't stop. People are already into it."
Right. They're like, no, stop. Don't get sentimental. We didn't bring you here for this. Yeah, I talked about, and I'm not a dating expert. I'm a dating opinionist. And because I don't really believe that there are dating experts. And if someone says they are, they're trying to make money off of you. I'm still trying to make money off of you, but just less.
In a fun way.
Yeah, in a fun, you're gonna laugh. Yeah, I don't think they knew what I was gonna do. They thought I was just gonna do stand-up, and I just went up and I was like, and as you saw, I start with, I've been giving dating advice for over a decade, and people are generally shocked by that.
Right. And I think that's great, because you're not like a psychologist. You didn't study the human psyche. You're talking from experience, and then from the experience of the other people that you talk to about it, like on the podcast and stuff like that. So I think, to me, that's like, I'd rather believe, like, if I heard a commercial and it was like the guy running the auto body shop and he did the commercial, as opposed to like some guy is saying, "Come on down and get your car fixed." I tend to believe the guy, the owner, because he sounds like a regular guy who's actually hands-on, who's done it and talked about it. So that's how I see, like, you're an opinionist, you're not an expert, but at the same time, I'd pay more attention to you. You do it in a more entertaining way too, but it's like, I'd kind of tend to believe you than someone who like made it their job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm the auto mechanic of the dating world.
There you go.
As I often say, I agree with you. And I guess that's the point. I'm not an expert. I'm someone in this and who has been in it. And when I was in college, and I'm single now, I was in a long-term relationship. So I was doing this podcast in a long-term relationship, having gone through certain things. But what I say to people, and I always say, I'm just speaking from my own perspective. And I promise you, most people, men especially, are 10% away from me. They're not 100% away from me. They're not maybe exactly me, but they're within a sliding scale of 5% above or 5% below. And you see extreme examples, and that's what takes over the conversation a lot. But most people are going to be within similar where I'm at. And because I'm not saying I'm a I'm not making myself out to be a prophet. I'm also like, I have to admit icky things on this podcast. I have to admit that I've been the guy that they're dealing with. And again, and then the other thing is my listenership, the people that follow me are mostly women. And they're looking for a straight male perspective on these things and want to hear like what's going on in my boyfriend's head, because men, we generally don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
That's for
with
sure.
with the TED Talk, going into it knowing that you weren't doing your act, were you more nervous going into that? Because I've done stand-up for the past 10 years, and like when I'm doing something that's not trying to get a laugh, I get more nervous for that. And like if like on the radio when we were on WAF, that was very loose. Like I was myself on WAF, but like recently I've been doing traffic on New Hampshire radio, and I'm like, I feel like such a fraud, and I get more nervous to do traffic because I'm like, oh God, they're gonna know that I don't know what the routes are, because I don't. But
I mean, you're totally right. And that's like we're in the same boat. Like all comics, you have to like be okay with the silence, because that makes the laugh that much bigger and that much more important. And that's like the hardest part to get over.
Yeah.
Like, like nobody's better at silence than Chappelle. Like that's his power, is how he has the audience. And Michelle Wolf is a good friend of mine, and she's one of the best comics in the country, and I've opened for her over 100 dates. And she's another person, like when I go to her with a bit, she's like, are they listening? If they're listening, you're almost there. Like they're interested. It's not like they're on their phone, playing on TikTok, so it was stressful for me to do this, because you have to trust it. It was stressful because I was practicing it at comedy clubs. So I'm practicing it at comedy clubs where and so there are laugh lines in it. So I'd start with like an old joke that I wasn't in the set for the TED Talk.
Yeah.
And then I would get into this set for the TED Talk, and you could see like, there'd be the drunk asshole who's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like you could tell, like, why is this emotional? Like, why is he talking about his fears? And I actually, and what was so interesting about it, and I would go to the Comedy Cellar in New York, like, and I'd have to go up after like a killer doing like, bop, 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 like every joke, every 10 seconds. And I'm up there going, talking about like, and the title of it is Who Should Pay for the First Date? And I talk about who should pay for the first date. And I do think it's funny, but like, it's definitely a different tone than a stand-up bit. And it was funny because afterwards, older women would come up to me and be like loved it. And it was always older women, and they'd be with their daughters, and the daughters liked it, but the older women were like, because it is presenting an old school view in a new school perspective, in my belief. It's saying, who should pay for the first date is always taken over by the most extreme assholes. And it's like, who should pay for the first date is such a, and I did it, I chose that title for a reason. I wanted it to be divisive. I wanted people to have a strong opinion, but it was so interesting because I'd get done with it and I would be nervous just like you. And I'd be like, and I would get off stage and I'd go, well, that sucked. Like, and then I'd have, these, moms of, it was always mother, daughter. And the mother would be like, loved it. Unbelievable. Oh my God. I've been talking about this. Like they would be like, I'm divorced now. And this is like something I've thought about. And my daughter asked me about this. So it was very cool.
But like in your head, you were like, I bombed. Because
in my head, I'm like, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
Like I'm still, and you don't know who you're connecting with and who you're.
The worst time I ever bombed pisses my wife off, because I'm always like, oh my God, that time sucked so bad. But I wasn't doing stand up because I was opening for Lenny Clark at Giggles Comedy Club in Saugus, but I used my act to propose to my wife on stage. And
my God.
So I proposed to her, but it wasn't my act. And then
you
after,
bombed.
I was like, fuck, I bombed. Like nobody, and she was like, that wasn't the point. And I was like,
right. Fuck. She's like, no, we're supposed to be the happiest we've ever been.
I was like, but me.
Oh man.
Meanwhile, there's a guy in the back going, "Not funny."
Yeah.
Not funny.
You hear
was
some
my
guy go,
dad.
"I got a large sausage and pepper pizza.
Well,
It was supposed to be well done."
you say you felt like it didn't work, but you were doing a TED Talk for an audience in a comedy club. You didn't tell
Right.
them, right? You didn't say,
No.
"Hey, I'm going to try my TED Talk out on you," because you probably would have gotten something thrown at you at that
Right.
point.
And you sound like TED Talk is such a punchline, like,
Yeah.
and welcome to my TED Talk. Like, I know that. I felt stupid telling people I was doing a TED Talk. How do you think I feel about, like, people would be like, you? Like, their reaction to me doing a TED Talk was almost the most insulting part. And then, you know what it did? It was all about, and, I believe in I love stand-up because it takes a lot of work, and I love like I love that it's a physical art form. You have to go do it to be good at it. Like, so for me, it was nice to have that in my back pocket. Like, oh, I haven't told them, and the laugh lines are working here. If the laugh lines are working at the Comedy Cellar in New York City, they're gonna be perfect and wow them at a basketball stadium in Reno, Nevada, at a TED Talk venue. So that was my thought going in, and it is amazing. Like, just like you said, like, it was so much more comfortable when I was in a room for TED Talks because the silences made sense,
Right. Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question about something because I'm going to ask you a dating question. I don't know if you've gotten these kind of questions before. I've been married.
Times.
I've been married for 25 years.
Good
all
for you.
right. I'm 54 years old.
Okay.
So say, and I hope my wife's not listening right now. I don't mean this. It's just a hypothetical question, honey.
Okay.
So say the marriage ends and I want to go hypothetically, and I want to go into the dating world. I'm 54. Okay. I have a fair knowledge of social media at this point. What would your advice be for someone to get back into the dating world? A 54-year-old guy who'd not been with another woman for like 25 years in a dating situation or a romantic situation.
You said one thing that I would caution you against.
Oh boy.
Fair knowledge of social media. That scares me the most. Old guy on social media out of a divorce. Here's what men do and what people do generally. When they get out of a relationship, there's a void. One less person to hug, text, call, one less person to tell your stories to. We're all big, tough guys, and we don't talk about our feelings, but men feel that too. You go, I got no one to talk to. So who do you go to? The most friendly sometimes you go back to the person you just came from. A lot of times that's why relationships get back together. They go, well, that's someone who said yes to my naked body before. I'll go to them. So you're going to go to the place that you've probably been talking to in a way that you might want people not to know about. The friendliest person to you is the place you're probably going to go towards the most likely. And I would say that would be a mistake, and you can only look bad. So I would say to someone, if they were like getting out of a marriage at 54 years old, they're like, I know how to use TikTok. I know how to use Twitter. I know how to use Instagram. I would be like, no, you don't, in a dating way, because you don't know how awful you sound. I would say, get away from social media. Don't do your dating on social media. Have it be in the venue for which it's made. Go on. I would start with hanging out with my family and friends, because those are the people that know people that are probably in the same boat as you and looking to meet people, especially if you're over it at this point. Hang out with family and friends, go to the barbecue, go be uncle, whatever at the, be Uncle Mike at the family, whatever, and go hang out with them and tell them that you're broken up, and let people know, because then they go, oh my God. And what you're going to find, especially if you're looking for something serious, I don't know what you're looking for at this point in this hypothetical world, but they go, we love Tracy. And Tracy has been on the dating scene, and that's what people start talking about with you. Then
she made the potato salad. Do you like the potato salad? Tracy
right. Tracy made that, right. And then at that point, if you want to go on the dating app, now the dating app becomes like a piece of the pie. The worst mistake that I make as a single person is letting the dating app enter into the carousel of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, email. The minute it gets in that carousel where every time you check your social media apps, you also check the dating app, you've gone too far. You're using it like a dating app and you're using it for the same amount of dopamine you get from a like on Instagram. So we have to be cautious. It's like drinking alcohol. It's like anything else that's that takes up our time. Too much of anything is no good. And that these are all. And my last piece of advice, someone new to the dating world who's never been on the apps, never been on social media, just because you're new to dating doesn't mean you're new to social interactions. What people do is and this is especially women deal with this more than men, because men are usually the ones lying and trying to hook up. But just because you're new to dating doesn't mean you're new to like, that was a weird conversation. That person, I don't know, why won't they make a date? They won't make a date because they don't want to date. Why do they keep texting me? Because they want to keep texting me. That's all they needed from me. So just because you're new to dating doesn't mean you're new to feeling what you feel from some social interaction, especially texting online.
Yeah, because I can't even imagine what I mean if I was trying to enter the dating world at this point, because it's
slowly.
been
I would say slowly.
Yeah, I'd probably pull a Kaczynski and build a cabin up in the woods in the White Mountains and just start,
I'm close to that myself right now. Don't get me wrong. I'm 37 and single. It's us. I talk about it on stage a lot, and it's fun, frustrating, exhausting. Like, you do age out of, I think men especially age out of like the whole game of it all. So you start going, oh, I just want to be on the couch and have someone I can show an Instagram post to and be like, don't we hate this person? Like, that is something you want to have. And, in your 20s, you're running around, you don't think of that. You're like, whatever. Well, I'm trying to get my shit off the ground. And
yeah, but in your 30s, you just want somebody to be like, did you get Wordle yet? No.
Right. Exactly.
Right. It's just like I just feel like I would shut, like, if it happened and all of a sudden I'm like in a bar or something and I'd be looking around and it's just, I would be like, I just don't feel like I have time for this.
Right.
Well, right. You have bars in Worcester. I mean,
well, hey, Worcester's got a lot of great places to meet singles.
Here's the thing. I travel around the country, like Worcester's like one of those towns where it's like, when people go out, they go out, like, where to go at least.
Yeah.
Like there's only one spot to go.
It's not like New York City where there's, an infinite amount of bars.
Right.
You'll never go to all the bars in New York City, in a lifetime.
And if you do, you got a real issue.
Right. Right. Another thing I want to mention is I'm fascinated with the whole board lord thing.
Oh yeah.
Because I kind of feel the same way about, there he is. Oh, look at that.
They put on the crown.
Yeah.
Put on the crown.
The board lord here.
Board lord is in the house.
Your lordship. Yeah.
Yes.
The butter, the cream cheese board I can live with. I can get behind that. Or maybe like a cheese whiz board or something like that. But Mike, I kind of agree with you on the butter board.
Let me just say, I would eat all of these boards. I'm such a misunderstood artist.
Yeah. Yeah, your lordship. Yeah.
I say this with a king's crown on my head that I bought for $2.99.
A Burger King's crown.
A Burger King's crown. As an artist, I get so misunderstood. One day, long after my death, people go, "Oh, we get the board lord thing." It's never about would I eat it. That's never what it's about. Because I'm a big fat fucking pig. I'll eat anything. Here's the thing. It's what does the board say about the person who made it? The idea that you put cream cheese out, you spread it on a board, which, first of all, your wood takes in the thing that is put on it. Like wood, I'm not even a woodworker, and I know this shit. I live in fucking New York City. Wood will taste like chive forever unless you do like the proper washing that you have to do. But beyond that, the person is now ruining a board that's whatever the board is and spreading cream cheese on it, something nobody asked for. Nobody asked for. And then sprinkling all the things that you would want to put on yourself and have. First of all, we live in a democracy. They've turned this into a dictatorship. They've told you what will go on the cream cheese. They put it on for you. What would you rather? Would you rather show up to you're at the Patriots game, you go to the tailgate, you set up a tailgate. One tailgate has a board where they've put out cream cheese on the board and spread on it little bits of salmon and little bits of capers? Or would you like a big table that has a big bucket of bagels, hot and fresh, 6 types of cream cheese in their own containers with a knife in it, then huge spread of lox, huge spread of tomatoes, huge spread of onion? One person cared about posting on Instagram and getting likes. The other person cared about the people who attended their party having an enjoyable time. That's my problem with the boards. The boards are made, and it's a millennial thing. I'm a millennial. We love low, we like things that take not a lot of work and get a ton of praise. And there is nothing that takes, you don't need a college education to make a charcuterie board. Charcuterie boards are like babies. Anyone can make one, and everyone has a picture of the one they made on their phone. So when someone says I have a kid, I don't think higher of them. I just go, oh, you fucked and you went through it. When someone makes a board, I go, oh, okay, you took some old shit and you zhuzhed it up to look good on social media. So when I yell at a board, when I get offended by a board, as the board lord, I'm offended by what their priorities were as a board maker. Not to say they can't be great. They can be. Not to say I wouldn't eat it. It's how little they thought of their good friends and family. You showed up. You skipped lunch to go to their event. You said, oh no, they're putting out food. And then the first thing they put out, there's a pumpkin gourd that you can't even eat, is taking up real estate.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Okay. So you're basically saying charcuterie boards, cream cheese boards, butter board, they're fascist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly what I'm saying.
So someone who calls himself a board lord is calling somebody else fascist.
That's right. I'm a benevolent dictator.
Right. Some monarch is calling somebody who has the ultimate say in everything.
Listen,
it's God's given right as a monarch is calling somebody else. We
celebrated the Queen's death. Okay.
You know what bugs me about those boards is the boards themselves, because my in-laws use this fancy board. It's a rock and it comes out of a bag, and I'm like, that just looks like a patio slab from Lowe's.
It's so
I could get that for 90 cents per square foot.
We've gotten out of our minds. I've been sent so many boards at this point because of this fucking bit. Like, it started.
Oh, it's great. I love it.
It started.
I love it.
2019, fall-ish 2019, I tweeted, I can tell what type of parent you'd be by your charcuterie board. And then people started sending me their pictures of their charcuterie boards, and I didn't even know that was something you'd have on your phone. Then it became this trend during the pandemic. Everyone was making the boards, and then it turned into like theme boards. It is the gift that keeps on smacking me in the face and reminding, like, I have been sent so many cream cheese boards, so many butter boards. It is actually the craziest thing that's ever happened.
But it's so funny, and I'm just fascinated by it.
Well, it lives in the land of things I like talking about most, where I'm allowed to have an opinion. It's hard to find a space where you're allowed to have an opinion. Like, I'm talking about a certain person with the boards, but everyone knows the person I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I couldn't just run into someone and go, this is the type of person I'm talking about. It takes the board to bring me into that world, to be able to show my honest opinion. Same with dating questions. Same with The Bachelor. I watch The Bachelor. I talk about dating and relationships from that. I can, we have to understand, sometimes we're not invited to give our opinion. People don't understand that. And you have to create situations as a comedian where you go, well, here's why I'm talking about this, either by making it very personal, like you got to find a way to make it personal. And, you can't just go, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah.
So
Well, again, it's like Josh mentions. It's like calling up and arguing about sports.
right.
It's a charcuterie board. Nobody died really.
Right.
So
right.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this.
So when it gets sent to me, right? When it gets sent to me, I get, oh, okay. Someone's alley-oop me. I get
they're throwing it to you right now. It's the ball's in your court. The board's in your court. You know,
and then I put on my king's crown.
That's right.
So now, have you signed a charcuterie board before?
I tried to do them as merch. Didn't work. No one.
No. Because like I've seen Brian Reagan sign multiple boxes of Pop-Tarts, but
this is the thing. I need to write my Hot Pockets Pop-Tarts. This is the thing that is waiting for me to pen, you know, this is as an artist. Right.
Yeah. Has anybody sent you a fry board yet?
The fry board pisses me off because
really?
You want cold fries? You want
okay,
cold fries?
They'll get cold. No, I get it. They'll get cold. You got to be first in line. You got to be first in line.
You got to be at the store when they buy them, because they don't just do the fry boards from the oven. They do them from like McDonald's, and they do them from like all the the fry board. Unless we find the technology, I don't know if we're there yet as a society to make a board that also heats and keeps things crisp. But I don't think we're there yet.
That's what we need. We need a fry board that heats, keeps things crisp, is a lightsaber and a fleshlight all in one.
Call the scientists, call the epidemiologists, get them off of cancer.
Right.
Tell them we got more important shit to do.
This has got to be done. Absolutely. Right. We really appreciate you taking the time with us today, Jared. Thank you so much. I've never talked to a TED Talk person before. Well, TED Talk X, so it's not really ESPN, it's ESPN2.
Right.
But still, it's cool.
Well, it's really Fox Sports 2.
Right.
Also, I don't think we've ever had another person on this podcast that also watches The Bachelor and Bachelorette like me.
Yeah,
oh my God. Well,
this started out as like a hockey podcast, but for some reason, my first guest ever was Caitlin Briscoe.
Really?
And Sean B together.
I mean, those two are like those are big gets.
Yes. And that was right after that show like finished too. Wow. I don't know how I got them, but they said yes. I met them at their hotel in Boston, and I was
unbelievable.
Like, well, there.
Does that still get listens?
It does, yeah.
I would imagine
one of the highest rated episodes ever.
I can imagine. I see the WAAF signs in the background.
Yes.
So you guys were with AAF. I used to listen to that growing up.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you that because I didn't really read it anywhere. Where did you grow up?
Needham.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah. I'm from Needham. I went to Needham High. It's funny. I heard a song on Spotify, or I heard a song you hear a song, you know, and it hit me in such a way that I was like, this reminded me of being in the car in high school with my buddies, like fucking around. And I was like, what is this? You know, you get pinged, you get a little ping.
Yeah.
And I go, what the fuck is this? And I go, oh man, it reminds me of WAAF. So I went on Spotify and I just searched WAAF, and there are playlists that exist out there that are like songs that you would hear on station. I gotta tell you, if the listeners, if you guys ever want to have like just a nostalgia masturbation session, every song, and it is, I never thought of it then that they like repeated a lot of the same music. Like it was a specific type of tune. Because I'm not a music guy. I'm not a music fan. I mean, I'm not a crazy person. I like music, but I'm a pig with music. I have no taste, and I just like what I hear. And
well, that's what it's for. You know, people always say that. It's like, well, I don't like cool stuff. It's like, no, you like what you like. I mean, it's like, you know, that's what music is. Music is like beer or food. You know, you like what you like, and the next guy will say, well, that sucks. But then the next guy will say, this is my favorite song. So,
true. I guess I see it, you know, I guess I'm trying to ward off someone who like put time and effort into like knowing the band and feeling like they're like the rookie card holder. Like I understand that feeling and someone jumping into your world. I get that. I don't know. But when I heard that music, I was like, the whole playlist, I have it right here. It's just like, oh my God. Like, I can't believe how much I felt like a big comfy coat being put on me, you know?
What are some of those like artists or songs?
This is this is back to me being an idiot who doesn't really, take music seriously.
Well, you said that thing. It's like you're entering someone's world who put in the time to learn about the band and stuff like that. Like I'm that person. Like I'm a total music, fanatic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be like that. It's like, well, I heard of them first. And then as I got older, I'm like, wow, I'm a real dick about this. It's like people just like what they like.
And I'm more like Jared. I'm more like Jared. And I was on WAF. And and I'd be like, who is that? This.
If anything, I'm encouraging now. I'm like, what is it?
Rush, Black Sabbath, Shine Down.
Shine Down.
Bruce Springsteen, Stone Temple Pilots, Incubus, Foo Fighters, Stained, Alice in Chains, Buck Cherry, Lit, Third Eye Blind Eye, Eve Six. Like these all like,
I feel like I'm hung over on 20 Guest Street in Brighton.
Oh yeah, man.
Right.
Yeah, all those bands.
Right. So it's just, and it's funny because like, the depressing and amazing part of the internet is finding how truly alike you are from other people. Like it's depressing because you're like, oh, that wasn't my own. It wasn't that interesting. But it is also beautiful because then you talk to people like you guys, and you guys are probably having the same, like, oh, I remember you and I, we are all on the same wavelength right now, like, and it's pretty interesting. Like because I come home from time to time now. My parents moved out of town. My parents don't live in Needham anymore. They moved down they did like the Jewish Boca thing. And they, so I'm coming to Boston in November, so I don't get back a lot now, and you don't, so, but then, this is what depresses me about streaming services is like, you lose like 1-800-54-GIANT. You lose, like
1-800
one in
for
Saugus.
Right, yeah, yep.
Come on down.
Yeah,
come on down. Bernie and Phil's quality, comfort, and price. Oh, that's right. Nice. We all, but we're losing that. Like I love cable television. Like that's how I grew up, and that's probably why I love it. But like, it tells me what time of the day it is. Like I know when I see PTIs on 5:30, and then I dread. I don't dread it, but like, and this has been talked about by people smarter than me, but I'm not an original on this one, but I'm just like, you just go, oh man, like, are people from Boston going to be the same as people from Texas 30 years from now? Like, this is how, this is what will we study the moment we went from cable to streaming as a moment where Bernie and Phil, jingle got lost. It was just a relic. I don't know.
Went from Bernie and Phil to Blue Chew.
Right. Yeah. Right. To us on a podcast going, it gets me hard, like.
And BetterHelp. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was the before the 90s anyway, before the big corporate takeover. That's what radio is, and it is in still some places, like here in Worcester, the station I work at. They tell us to focus on local, Worcester, right. Worcester. And that's what a radio station, wherever it may be, whether it's Boston or Des Moines or LA or whatever, it should sound like that community because it's that community's airwaves. Technically, they own they own those airwaves, and it should be providing information and entertainment for and from that community.
Right. And it's because, when I go on the road, sometimes you go on radio, sometimes you don't. The radio appearances are going away. You can feel it.
Oh yeah.
But there's certain places when the radio matters, it is so awesome. The shows are better. DVE and the DVE morning crew
in Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh.
Yeah, still a great station.
Great station, and Randy Bauman and those guys. I got introduced through a friend from college who knew them, but as I got into comedy, and I got the chance to go in when I went to Pittsburgh, I think in the spring, and I did shows there for the weekend, and people showed up and they were great audience because, there was that, like you're saying, there was a respect of well, my guy told me to go see this guy. You were almost fixed up with them, and you got a chance to go on the radio and talk about the day's news. And it wasn't like, I yearn for that because I love talk. I do 7,000 podcasts a week. So like I loved listening to talk radio when I was in high school my whole life. My dad listened to talk radio. I went to Eddie Annelman's Hot Dog Safari.
Right.
Like I did all that shit. So but not even realizing it was a thing, it wasn't, I didn't think of it as like a different thing,
Yeah. It's like, I would say it's the lawyers and consultants that kind of ruined that part of radio, where now it's like you have a vice president of rock programming that works in Seattle.
Right.
And he's approving what gets played on stations all over the country. And, as someone from the Boston area, people in the Boston area are nothing like people in Seattle. You mentioned
not
earlier,
even a little.
You mentioned earlier, nobody asks for anybody's opinion. Well, when you come to Massachusetts specifically, you're going to get it, whether you fucking want it or not. We don't care. Right. So it's like, yeah. And in Seattle, no, not so much, or Pittsburgh, or, wherever.
Right.
So
everyone in Boston is a ball buster. I'll never forget. My dad grew up in Newton, of course, because I mentioned I'm Jewish. My grandparents lived there my whole life. I did stand up. It was like my second year in the stand up, and I'm opening for, just like you said, like you opening for Lenny Clark. I can't believe you proposed to your wife opening for Lenny. Like, that's hilarious, because it's like, because everyone's like, when does Lenny come on? Like, when does my best friend Lenny come on? Like, it is like,
we just saw Tony V. Now this,
right? And they're just like, they're killers and the most beloved, and like everyone knows them. Like, even the minute when you meet Lenny Clark, you're like, oh my god, this is like, I would consider him a friend. Like, Lenny and I have hung up. I would be like, I love Lenny. Like, everyone has that opinion. So like, when you open for him, they're like, get at it, come on, I want to see my buddy. Like, and you're like, I love you. You're holding the ring up.
There's a guy in the back. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh God.
Marry Lenny. Like,
do this at the Kowloon.
Right. I'll have 2 wonton soups. There's no crackers for the wonton soup. But I'll never forget, I opened for Steve Sweeney, same thing. People were like, get out of the way. We wanted Steve Sweeney.
Right.
And my grandmother was there, and like, just everyone from Boston is a ball buster. Like, everyone. And my grandmother used to bring nips with her wherever she went, and she'd pour her own drink. And then she got caught. And then the owner came to me and was like, hey, your grandmother is pouring her own drinks. And I go, what? And I'm like, begging for stage time. I'm like, she's what? And they're like, she's pouring. And I was like, oh, fuck. And I go up to her, and she was like, and I was like, Nana, you got to stop pouring.
Nana,
Nana, cut it out. And she goes, what? And I go, they saw you. I'll buy your drink. Just stop. And she was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And then like, and then she goes, and when you go on, and then she like changes the conversation. She looks at me and she goes, and when you go on stage, take off that stupid fucking hat. And you're like, I couldn't write this material. And it's like, that's my grandmother. This is like, like everyone's like that in New England. Everyone's like that.
I moved down to Richmond, Virginia, and I lived there through most of the 90s. And when I first moved down there, I was in my early 20s, and I remember walking down the street, and people, if you made eye contact with somebody, they'd be like, how you doing?
Right.
And it's just like, and I remember just going like, what? They're legitimately trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, what do you want? Or what are you looking at?
Right.
Just saying, hi, buddy, relax.
What? Yeah.
What?
It is. It's a little weird, and it is very much, a New England Northeast thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like Wilmington, North Carolina. That's where I went for my honeymoon, and the whole week we were down there, like people would like ask you how you are, and they cared about your answer. And I was, what do you want from me? I was like,
Josh really knows how to make something romantic. He's like, I'm gonna propose during my bombing set in front of Lenny Clark
at Giggles. Yeah,
at Giggles
in Saugus
people
on Route
order
1.
their pizza. And
told I didn't bomb, but I did.
And then let's go to wonderful Wilmington, Delaware for that honeymoon. I love it. I love it.
There's some nice smokestacks there that we can look at, and
I love it.
Man, well, Jared, thanks so much, man. We
Thank you
appreciate
both.
it.
This is so nice.
November 12th at the Wilbur Theater, and where can people? You want to give out your podcast again? It's
I got 7,000. I never shut up.
we want all of them.
The U Up podcast is the one that people know the most. The J Train podcast, I have, if you like comedy, like I have different comics on every episode. And I do a thing called the Luxury Lounge where people write in with their complaints and we complain with them. So it's like a free space to complain about anything you'd like.
Oh, so it's anything. It's not like your podcast or it's any, like I want to call up and say, I hate it when people like, hold up the express line with more than 15 items, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. That type of stuff. Like, and it only started because during the pandemic, you were only allowed to complain about the pandemic. And then if you were like, well, I also like, I also, there wasn't any like soup crackers that came with my wonton soup. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's a global pandemic. And it's like, well, now you can come into the Luxury Lounge. You can complain here and you get the, it's a safe space. So it's the J Train podcast. We do it every Monday and Thursday. And then I also have the Bachelor podcast, which is a Bachelor podcast. And then, just at Jared Freid on Instagram. Yeah, I never shut up. I told you.
Wow.
Jared Freid on Instagram.
Where can people send their boards to the board lord? Do they have to go to the grand? Do they have to go through the Grand Vizier to the board lord first, and he has to approve that? And then
I wish I had that. To be honest, I could send so many now that it's like getting a little crazy. Send it to my Instagram at Jared Freid. I see all the DMs and stuff. And then, I'm going to be at the Wilbur. I'm so excited to come. So get the group chat, whoever you fucking ball bust with, and bring it.
Now, will the Crown be making the trip to Boston?
I'm hoping there's I can buy a Crown there. You can see one of the things is falling off. So I got to
Burger King, dude. Go to Burger King, get a Whopper, ask for a Crown.
Gotta go talk to my fellow royals.
Yeah, hi. I'm in my 30s. I need a crown.
I think there's a
yell at meat.
Yeah.
I think there's an eye party like right next to Primark in downtown Boston. So
there you go. Yeah, I think there is. Yeah, there you go. You're all set. You can probably get a crown and a wand or a whatever and a cape
and a starlight or a lightsaber pocket pussy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's one of those somewhere in what's left of the combat zone over there.
And some nips for your nana.
So that's right.
Yeah, get nips for
She's
Nana.
dead, but
sorry. Way to go, Josh. Way to open that wound.
Good ending.
Good job. Way to end the interview. Yeah, end strong.
Yeah, just like my proposal.
Just like your set of giggles, ending strong. Right. All right, Jared. Thanks a lot, man. And we'll see you at the Wilbur November 12th. We appreciate it.
Love it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, yeah. Anytime, man. Thank you.